Hello, my name is Jack Stanley, and I'm the co-founder of the Tech Academy. I'd like to welcome you to the Tech Academy podcast. The Tech Academy operates a 15-week software developer bootcamp. Our program can be taken online from anywhere in the world. You can find out more at our website, learncodinganywhere.com. That's learncodinganywhere.com.
Our guest today is Mounir Shita. He's the CEO of Kimera Systems, and they work in artificial intelligence. I got to say, I enjoyed this conversation tremendously. He's a very brilliant guy, great insight into both technology and people. He's got some really interesting things to present about how we're approaching the actual creation of sentient or aware technology. I think you'll enjoy this a lot. So this is actually, I do a lot of these interviews for podcasts, and I've been looking forward to this one tremendously because I have a confusion or misunderstanding about what AI is. And I'm a technology worker. I founded a code school. I should know a bit more about it. And so I've been looking forward to picking your brain for a little bit.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Tell me about your company and what you guys do, just in broad strokes.
So we are in a niche part of the whole AI world.
Okay.
It's called artificial general intelligence, which is the pursuit of building real thinking machines. So, most AI out there is really about recognizing a cat from an image. It's pattern recognition.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, it's the most advanced thing we can do today.
Okay.
Recognize a cat from an image, recognizing cancer cells from an image, patterns from stock markets. It's the exact same thing. That's not really thinking machines. That's machine learning. That's having, I have a problem, I build a piece of software to solve my problem, and that piece of software becomes better at solving that problem, but has absolutely no clue what the problem is about or why we have that problem.
Okay.
So we've been, there's a tiny little group of companies that are really trying to research and crack the whole idea of real thinking machines that can think like human beings, act like human beings, or go beyond human beings.
And that's the space you guys are operating in.
Yes.
This is intriguing.
So we claim to have the first generation of it. Other scientists say that we're decades away from it. Few people believe us. But no, it's 12 years of research and a lot of thinking about how reality works.
What role do you play in the organization?
So I started the research back in 2005. Initially by myself. Another guy came aboard.
Are you the founder?
Yes.
Oh, this is cool. Thank
I'm
you
the founder and CEO.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm the geek.
Yeah.
Like you.
Okay.
I'm the geek in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a horrible software developer. So there's way better software developers out there than me. I'm more of a scientist.
Yeah. Okay. So wow. All right. So the questions I have right off the bat, this is a scientific discipline, obviously, right? Coding is a scientific discipline. I mean, or the rather practice of it is very precise. You have the set of CPU instructions you have available to you, and that's what you have to work with. But now we enter into the realm of things like, what is personality? What is reality? How do you bridge that gap? What's the intellectual viewpoint that you start from in trying to solve that?
Let's see if I understand your question.
What are some of the baseline assumptions you have about what personality is that you're now trying to replicate inside a physical machine?
Well, we took a little bit of okay. There's less than 10 companies that we know of that's focusing on this general intelligence.
Okay.
99% of them are trying to reverse engineer the brain. We are the ones who are not trying to reverse engineer the brain because, well, quite frankly, no one knows how the brain works. So how can you reverse engineer something you don't know how it works? So we took a little different approach. Back in 2005, I decided I'm not going to go to school for AI. I'm not going to get my PhD in AI because we tried for 60 years to solve general intelligence. We failed miserably.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter which university you get your degree from, MIT or a community college, doesn't really matter. You're probably going to learn the same techniques and get the same tunnel vision.
Yeah.
So I decided to take a chance, start with a blank piece of paper, and do it the scientific way, not the brute force engineering way, and try and figure out what is intelligence. It's kind of funny because AI back in 2005, AI was a cuss word. You didn't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
No VC would ever write you a check for it.
Mm-hmm.
Today, it's the sexiest thing you can do in technology.
Yeah. Although, as you pointed out earlier, most of them seem to be machine learning with a different label.
Yes, but there is this big group there's this category called AI scientists.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny when you use the word scientist and intelligence in the same title, but you can't even define what intelligence is. and so it was really hard back in the day to say, okay, we're going to build thinking machines, but let's not worry about figuring out what intelligence is. And how do you know you built a thinking machine? So
you spotted a central missed element.
But it's yes in the AI space, yes. But if you look in the world of science, I mean that's what scientists do.
Mm-hmm.
They build a hypothesis. They start with a gut feeling. They start with observation. They theorize on something, and they try to poke holes in their own theories or prove their own theories. None of that seems to exist in the AI world. Odd.
And this is how you guys approached it.
Yes.
What have you come up with?
Well, if you really want to get confused, we define intelligence as creating a sequence of particle movements.
Okay.
So when I say that, people go, "What?"
I'm good. Go ahead.
We were able to define intelligence by, in our quest of trying to define intelligence, they took us into quantum mechanics and space-time.
Okay.
And so we created this theory. It hasn't been published yet. We will publish it once we have time. We just, every startup. The one thing we don't have is money and time.
Exactly.
So the theory is called the general theory of intelligence. There are a few theories out there what intelligence is, but they come from the world of psychology and they're very human-centric. In fact, I downloaded a couple of these papers and I tried to take those theories of intelligence, those different ones, and apply it to my cat. Mm-hmm. And it didn't work because they're very, very human-centric. Mm-hmm. And our gut feeling when we started was like, let's assume there are intelligent life forms around the universe. Mm-hmm. There has to be a universal definition of what intelligence is.
A commonality.
Yes.
Okay.
And so what we ended up coming up with was a theory that you can apply to particles, to bacteria, to cats and fish, humans, aliens, solar systems, galaxies. Basically, we were arguing that intelligence is woven into the whole fabric of space-time. Okay. But really what it is moving particles. It really comes down to the assumption was, or I think everyone agrees that a more intelligent person is more effective at reaching their goals than a less intelligent person. Mm-hmm. So we kind of looked at the goals. Okay, so let's take a look at the goals. What is the difference between me reaching a goal versus me, still working towards the goal? Mm-hmm. And it really is, so if I have this cup of coffee that I'm holding right here, the viewers can't.
Yeah, this is our favorite part of the podcast, and I made the mistake as well when we're he's holding up a cup of coffee. There is a cup of coffee
on my right side of me, mm-hmm. and if my goal is to move the cup of coffee to the left side, mm-hmm. and I do that, I realize my goal. Mm-hmm. I moved a bunch of particles and I changed the composition of space-time, and there is no goal you can think of that doesn't require you to change the composition of space-time. Even if your goal is to sit down and just think about an apple, mm-hmm. there's a bunch of signals being shot back and forth in your brain, and mm-hmm. you're actually moving particles around. There simply doesn't exist a goal you can achieve without moving particles in space-time.
This is really intriguing. Keep going.
So that's how we define it. It's really as easy as that. Okay. So
what's a gradient scale of intelligence then when you're looking at an individual person or being or alien or whatever? What does that scale look like of a gradient scale of intelligence?
So we have something and I will actually talk about that in my presentation today, something called comprehension factor.
Okay.
So basically, when you talk about the sequence of particle movements, what you're talking about is the probability that if I move these particles, forget particles, let's talk human terms here, actions. You have to perform an action to move a particle.
Okay.
So what is the probability of me getting the result of doing this first action? Then what is the probability of having an action available from the first action and picking the right action, performing it, and getting the second result I want?
Prediction of consequences.
There's cause and effects. There's all cause and effect. And so humans are really good at creating a very small amount of steps or planning a small amount of steps with very, very high confidence level. But of course, a probability is something that's between 0 and 1. And so when you start multiplying all these probabilities, naturally, the longer the sequence is,
the more you approach 0.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what we are looking at, and we're trying to build a general type of benchmark for general intelligence, it's not specific to our algorithm, but something that we could use, that other people could use in the future as well.
Okay.
But really what we want to look at is what is the longest sequence you can create with, and this is just a number we just kind of randomly set on. What's the longest sequence you can create and still keeping the comprehension factor at 0.75 or higher?
Okay.
So humans are not very good at doing very, very long sequences. Babies do one. I'm hungry. I start crying. I get food. Great. That's still
it works for me too, by the way. I'm an adult. Anyway.
That's still human level intelligence, by the way. But I don't think you can argue that babies don't have human level intelligence.
Yeah.
And by the way, deep learning, they don't even hit 1 on that scale. They're just, because it's a classification system. They don't hit 1, so it doesn't even enter the scale.
Okay.
And so what we define as general intelligence is that's the length of the sequence has to be between 1 and X. We don't know what X is, but whatever the most intelligent person to ever have walked on this planet, what is the longest sequence they have been able to create in their mind?
Got it.
And if you go beyond that, then it's what we define as artificial superintelligence.
Okay.
Which is where machines just become so incredibly smart that they can do almost anything. So that's kind of how we measure intelligence, which is a little different than IQ tests.
It is. I mean, the IQ test is a bit of, problem solving. Okay, fine. If the problem is how do I get that coffee from the right side of me over to the left, well, I figured out that I have an arm and I can move it over there. Okay, good, excellent. But it isn't, what you're talking about is a bit meta. It's a bit beyond that. Okay, what's the concept of what occurred? Well, there's a particle that needed to move, and I looked at probabilities of different avenues and concluded one. It happened to be, I'm going to put my hand out and move that thing.
By the way, that's more than one step.
It is, isn't it?
You have to know how to get your arm up. You have to understand that the consequences of moving this coffee is that the coffee is moving and it's moving towards your, there's several steps there.
Oh, yeah.
So.
God, okay, this is neat stuff. All right, so in your research or your thought process, or as you bumped into different results from trying to build some of this into actual code or machines, have you ever bumped up against, okay, is there an element of intelligence or consciousness that isn't physical, that isn't an observable, knowable, like I can touch it in the physical universe thing?
The one question we avoided answering is, so we define intelligence as creating a sequence of particle movements. One question a lot of people ask us is like, okay, well, that's great, but what's the purpose of these sequences? And I can answer the purpose of sequences from a human perspective, like, hey, I want to get a job, but then you start applying it to solar systems. What's the purpose of a planet going around the sun? And suddenly you have, religious people saying it's God's plan, and you have atheists saying, it's this and that, and it
Random motion,
goes
whatever.
into the whole religious part, which is so far from science that I don't want to touch it.
Understood. And yet you bump up against it when you're dealing with such a meta concept that you're dropping a bunch of assumptions everybody knows kinds of things, and
everybody knows, but you can't prove it, right?
Right, but you bumped up against that. Well, wait a minute.
I'm only interested in things I can prove.
Yeah.
I can physically create a data on and prove it and replicate the experiment. If I can't do that, I stay away.
Totally understood. I was curious where you bumped into on it, because it's every time. I remember being a kid in the 80s and reading about Lisp, that computer programming, and Lisp and Lua, a few of those things, and bumping up against this concept of artificial intelligence, and immediately thinking, well, wait a minute, are people somehow fundamentally different from machines? Can you ever actually replicate a person in a machine? I'm not even saying I have the answer, but it's something that I really gave some thought to at like age 12 or 13, not long after I learned about computers and how they worked, And so I'm really intrigued by people that are working in that space from the point of view that you've adopted, because I've also observed that you brought up the machine learning example. That's what most people are doing. They're just saying, okay, I'm going to build much more efficient and fast categorizers of information. Or I'm going to take a thing that I already know, what the general form of a cat is, and make a data processor work so fast that it can interpret a cat inside a picture. That's not thinking.
No.
Everybody already knows what a cat is. And you had to program that into the machine in order for it to recognize that pattern.
Yes.
It's not thinking.
No. And let me take it even further. I was chairing an AI conference in San Francisco a couple of days ago, and a venture capitalist said 99 out of 100 companies who describe themselves as AI startups are not AI startups. It's kind of like taking my startup, Kimera, and saying we're a PHP company because we write code in PHP. Right? We're not the PHP company. We're not trying to develop PHP. We're not trying to. And so most AI companies, or companies that describe themselves as artificial intelligence, they're really taking off-the-shelf tools, deep learning systems, using them as they're supposed to using them just the way that they use C++ or PHP or JavaScript or whatever it is. So actually, AI is not. How do I say this? It's not as big as the media wants it to be. It's just a tool that a lot of companies use to solve business problems, which is great. That's exactly what you're supposed to do with it.
But it doesn't mean what I'm reminded of The Princess Bride. You keep on using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Yes.
They use AI, and what they're really just talking about data processing.
Yes.
It seems like,
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with data processing.
Nope.
That's great. Okay. But a person had to who thunk it up? A person thunk it up to begin with.
Yes. And I think this venture capitalist is absolutely correct. He said an AI company is a company who's focusing on expanding the science of artificial intelligence and discovering new ways of how to build it so that other people can build business products out of it. But if you're building a business, solving a business problem,
it's not AI.
If you're trying to sell more coffee and using deep learning, you're a retail company. You're not an AI company.
Does that bother you a little bit when it just gets thrown around that way, or you're just like, all right, whatever, I know what I'm doing?
What bothers me, what I'm mostly scared of, is the hype, and it's driven by media. It's not, the head of the AI group at Jet Propulsion Laboratory was at AI conference. It was a couple of days ago, and even he wasn't willing to call deep learning artificial intelligence. It's machine learning. That's it. But if you look at media today, it sounds like we're on the brink of having super intelligence killer robots ready to take over the world and blah, blah, blah. And on the good side and the bad side. But reality is we can recognize a cat from an image, and that's the extent we can do. And unless we can stop this hype, what's going to happen, this is what happened several times in the past. It's called AI Springs and AI Winners. An AI winner starts when all this hope and dreams, suddenly people realize that it's just not, we're not there, it's not happening, and funding dries up. And suddenly AI becomes a cuss word. AI is nothing new. It's been around for decades, up and down. Some point was lots of funding, and then people realize, oh, well, we don't know what to do now, and funding dries up. Stubborn people like myself continue, and then someone has a little breakthrough, and there's a new hype cycle that goes on, and a lot of people today saying, oh no, there's not going to be any more AI winners. We're so far ahead. And no, sorry. We can recognize a cat. And the system that can recognize a cat doesn't even know what a cat is.
Right. Right. They just have a template.
Yes.
For a pattern.
Yes.
Okay. Why do you do this? What is it that drives you?
Changing the world. I'm 40. I still want to change the world. Never grew out of that. I think there's one thing everyone agrees on, and that is that if we can crack artificial general intelligence, so not deep learning, like real intelligence, it will make the internet look like a drop in the big ocean when it comes to transformation of the world. The belief is we'll get rid of global poverty, we'll find cure for cancer, we'll solve all the big problems with humanity. And my joke is, if time machines existed, I would have moved to the future a long time ago. They don't exist, so I have a choice. I can sit on my ass and just complain about it.
Or you can make the future.
Yes. And I intend to, I might not live in the world where there is no more global poverty or there's no more war, but I intend to at least experience the beginning era of general intelligence.
That's a wonderful goal. That's very cool. Okay, one last thing. This is I could talk about this for a while. This is really neat. Okay, so you have this definition of intelligence. Have you looked at, as part of it, the definition of insanity or departure from rationality, or why is it there would be a gradient scale of intelligence? Where could the prediction factor go off? In other words, if you're going to have a bit of a kind of a machine model for intelligence or people, how is it we can even come up with wrong conclusions and do things that patently don't help us survive and are a bit crazy? Have you looked at that part of how that fits into the model?
Yes. So a lot of people believe that we have emotional intelligence, we have social intelligence, and to me, none of that exists. I do not like Elon Musk talking about artificial intelligence. And I know I talk on behalf of every real AI scientist out there. We really want him to keep his mouth shut.
Okay.
Because he tries to connect evil with intelligence. And with our theory of intelligence, if our theory is correct, and obviously time is the only thing that will tell if it's correct or not, but I am very confident to say that according to our theory, evil cannot exist. And we can explain evilness by people creating the wrong sequences towards a goal. So if you look at ISIS, if you talk to the people, they really believe they're doing something good.
They think they're right.
Yes. We might think they're evil, just like they think we're evil. But they're driven by what they believe is good. I would just simply explain it as they don't quite getting their sequences correct.
And the actions they're taking aren't going to actually lead to long-term survival.
No. And so their ability to keep their comprehension factor high is that they can only create very short sequences. So they believe that if I just kill enough people, somehow that will lead to a better planet for everyone.
The long-term survival factor isn't accurate on that.
No. So it is just simply that they are unable to really think about, what is the effect of killing people, and understanding the consequences of that, and understanding how that kind of continues to lead to, how it will not lead to what they think they will lead to.
Right. That power of prediction is completely off, actually.
Yes.
And so from the outside, it looks like an insane or evil act. From the inside, they've evaluated the situation and looked at a survival goal and went, oh, this is how to accomplish that.
Yes. But and if you look at personalities in history that we today consider pure evil, like Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't think he woke up and was like, today I'm going to be evil. What evilness can I do today?
Sure, he's fully convinced that his actions were right.
He was fully convinced that the Jews were to blame for whatever.
And certainly the prediction of the consequences of the actions was completely wrong.
Yes.
Part.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
okay, it's interesting. You are dealing with what can I observe? How do machines work? How does intelligence work? How do people work? But it certainly seems like you're inevitably bumping up against questions of philosophy too.
Oh, look, science starts with philosophy.
Yeah.
Anyone who says that philosophy has nothing to do with in science are completely wrong.
They're certainly not paying attention to their history.
No,
at all.
No. A scientific theory starts with someone just staring at the stars and wondering about stuff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It starts with a viewpoint. It's a philosophical viewpoint.
Yes.
About man, existence, goals, spirit, whatever it is. It
whatever
starts
it is.
There.
Yep.
And then you see the end result of, oh, I've got a digital watch.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. It's a digital watch. There's philosophy behind that,
Yep.
Wow, what a neat space to operate in. You really enjoy this, don't you?
I love it.
I would. I think it's fantastic.
It's a dream job.
Yeah. Well done.
Thank
well
you.
done. And seriously, especially in a climate where it's always hard to build an organization. It takes some work and effort to build an organization, but you're also operating in a space that not everybody can understand well, and where there's deliberate misinformation from the media.
Yes.
And you're building something. Good job.
It's tough. It really is tough, but it's especially if we succeed, it's like the best feeling ever.
Yeah. And you'll be able to help people, won't you?
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, that's why we do what we do.
Yep.
Wow. This has been one of the coolest interviews I've done on the podcast. I really appreciate you sitting down and just opening up to that degree about the viewpoint, why you do this, what your assumptions are, how it works in your mind, and it's wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. That was cool. That was about right. It is so funny.
Hi, this is Jack Stanley again. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I'd like to leave you with a suggestion. We call this Jack's Random Tips. Today's tip is, as a software developer, or frankly anybody that works at a desk, you should make it a point to stand up as much as possible. Sitting too much can contribute to things like weaker muscles, weight gain, back pain, stiff hips and a stiff spine, neck issues, and other physical problems can occur as well. There are many solutions to this. 3 of the best are, 1. Getting a standing desk, 2. Getting a stand for your laptop that raises it up in the air, or 3. Getting an adjustable table. It's also smart to just walk around every few minutes just to move your body. Staring at a screen in front of your face for hours can also cause vision issues, so every few minutes it's best to look at things that are far away. This could be done as you walk around. There are studies that state that sitting too much can actually shorten your life. Our bodies were not meant to sit 8 to 12 hours a day. They were meant to move, walk, run. Basically, when we sit, our body thinks we are semi-at rest, so internal functions slow down. Anyways, I hope this information helps. And again, if you are interested in enrolling in our Software Developer Bootcamp, please visit our website, learncodinganywhere.com. Whether you're looking for a career change, you're unemployed, or fresh out of high school, the Tech Academy is the perfect option for those interested in breaking into the technology industry.